Hi guys, Darren Ashford here from the Drum Lesson Academy. In this lesson I'm going to look at our proximity to the drums in relationship to our hand technique.
drumlessonacademy.com. Take your drumming to the next level.
Okay, I'm now sat way too close to the drums again like I was last time. This time I'm just going to show you a couple of things that are going to affect the hands. If I take a stick in my left hand and place it in the center of the drum, one of the first things, if I just turn around to the drums now, one of the first things you can see from the side camera there is that my elbow joint is actually kind of sticking out the back. I've got a kind of acute angle in between my upper arm and my lower arm, and the effect this has on my wrist joint is that it actually closes off some of the motion there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise, in this particular position now, I'm going to raise my stick up as much as I can from that position. You can see that I can only access about 60 degrees, 50 or 60 degrees there. And simply by moving back, either by moving the seat back or sitting further back on your seat, one of the things you'll notice straight away is that I've now got a 90-degree angle, or thereabouts, between my upper arm and my lower arm. Now if I try to elevate the stick, you can see that I can easily reach this 90-degree angle, allow me an easier access to a very loud dynamic, a very high stick height, for example. Okay, so that's something you can easily recognize if you're sat too close to the drums, and especially if you practice in front of a mirror to watch your motions and stuff like that, you'll notice these little things pretty quickly. So that's hand technique and the relationship between that and our proximity. Okay, I've now lowered my snare drum, and this snare drum height is now too low for me. And the first thing you'll notice, if I want to access any rim shots, the first thing you'll notice that my legs kind of get in the way. I can no longer access rim shots, mainly because my legs, during their natural motion, will interfere with my ability to play a rim shot. So from that point of view, I'm compromised immediately. Now, the downside to this is that I've seen a lot of drummers who set up this way and play for a very long time, I mean years, and what they end up doing is altering their natural technique. So rather than raising the snare up, they find ways, from a technical standpoint, of accessing this. And then what they'll either do, they'll either go into French grip, which is where we hold the stick with the thumb on top, and they'll come into the center of the drum like this and kind of play between their legs, or they'll alter their palm down position and go out to the sides, almost as if they were playing German grip, and access the sound there. So rather than change the snare height, what they'll end up doing is changing the technique in order to access the sound. And realistically, it's a very easy fix. In order to get that, you just raise the snare up. It's pretty straightforward. One other thing you'll notice, that if I do start playing in palm down position at this snare drum height, I've already got a slight kink in my wrist here. So that has the same effect that I showed you earlier of being too close to the drums, where the elbows were sticking out the back. This time the elbows aren't sticking out back. In that respect, they're completely fine. But what's happening, because the drum is too low, I've automatically got this kink in the wrist. And remember me saying that the strongest part of our stroke is where we have a 90-degree angle in the upper arm, where it meets the lower arm there, and a flat relationship between forearm and stick. Any different from that, then, such as this position here, where it's slightly kinked at the wrist, you're not going to be able to access the strongest part of your stroke. So that's what happens if you set up your snare too low. Okay, I've now moved my snare height to a position where it's just too high. Now if I just put my sticks in the center of the drum, you can immediately see from the side camera that I've got another kink in the wrist, this time in the opposite direction. So I've got a slight kind of gooseneck happening in my wrist joint there. Now this is going to compromise your playing in a couple of ways, mainly through the risk of injury. When you're accessing or connecting with the drum, when you're in below this parallel kind of position here, and you're going into this negative angle with the wrist, you're always going to compromise the tone and the strength of the stroke, or I should say the dynamic of the stroke. Also, by opening the wrist up like this, you're putting yourself at risk of injury in the wrist joint. So again, I would try and avoid this position. Anything that looks like it's an unnatural position for the body generally is an unnatural position and will not help you achieve what you want to achieve on the drums, and it may put you at risk of injury. So that's where my snare drum height is too high. Now I've returned the snare drum to my usual playing height, and with the sticks in the center of the drum here, you can see that all the things that I've talked about before are in alignment. I've now got a nice 90-degree angle between my upper and lower arm. I've got a straight or fairly flat wrist in the rim shot position, and everything seems in line. I don't seem to be having to make any strange compromises in my biomechanics in order to play in this position. So this is where I'll be most happy and most comfortable playing a whole range of different dynamics and the ability to access different sound sources on the snare. So for example, rim shots in the middle of the drum, open snare, which is not rim shots, in the center of the drum like this. I can also have the ability to come out to the sides and come backwards if I want to, whereas if my proximity was compromised, let's just say if I was too close to the drums, pulling my elbows even further back would not necessarily be a very good idea. Okay, your call to action this month is to adjust and fine-tune, if needed, your proximity to the drums and also your snare drum height. This will hopefully maximize your technique by opening up your dynamic levels, allowing you to access a wider range of dynamics and also a wider range of sounds and textures from the snare drum. My name's Darren Ashford from the Drum Lesson Academy. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions, or you want to sign up to my free podcast in iTunes or sign up to my email newsletter, you can do so by visiting drumlessonacademy.com. My name's Darren Ashford. Until next time, have a good one.
drumlessonacademy.com. Take your drumming to the next level.